Okay, ladies and gentlemen, councillors, it's gone 4:30, that little technical hiccup. So we'll open the meeting, and firstly I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land we meet on today and pay my respects to their elders past and present. Housekeeping, firstly mention all phones to be turned on silent at least, please. If something was to happen and you're asked to evacuate the building, please exit via the doors leading out of the building onto the footpath and await further instructions. Live streaming. This meeting is being streamed live and recorded and made publicly available on Council's website. Persons attending or speaking in the public forum should refrain from making defamatory comments. Councillor. Next item on the agenda is public forum, and we have two speakers, councillors, speaking in public forum today. The first speaker is Mr. John Byrne, and he's speaking against a motion in regard to the endorsement of Hilltops Community Strategic Plan 2042-2025 review, the Hilltops Delivery Program 25 to 29, the Hilltops Operational Plan 25-26, and Hilltops Council Resource Strategy and results of public consultation. Mr. Byrne, you'll get 5 minutes.
Thank
I'll
you,
go in somewhere and I'll give you a little buzz on the 4-minute marker and let you know that how you're travelling. So.
Hopefully you won't have to, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor and councillors, one of the issues a lot of us face is being self-employed. We have a number of people here who are. Now, we wake up in the morning, I do anyhow, have one holiday, there goes $1,000. Do my little ablutions, there's 5,000. And I don't know if I'm going to have any money in come Friday or not. I'm only a little job. We have big companies, we have smaller companies. We're the ones who supply all the money to government. But now, the people employed by council will wake up Monday morning and they know that whatever their salary be, 1, 2, whatever it may be, the bank on Friday. Now, most of these people will not, I'll get to the point I'm coming to, most of these people won't be here in 5 years' time. Hopefully we will all be, all re-elected, other than those that walked off the planet, and hopefully I'm not one of them. And the decisions you make here today affect these people that are struggling, really, really struggling. Sometimes you worry about it, you think about it, it's not. The decisions you make, as I said, now some of the costs can't be recognised or accepted are coming up. If you go to 2.2 of your documents, there's some issues there. You're talking about, the Mayor and I have different views on this, but secure potable water to Burra. They don't want it, simply because they're be subject to water restrictions. Talk to Alan Banks or any of the Rotarians, they don't want it. The issue I have, if Goldenfields want to take water to Burra, that's fine. They're going to charge people using it, so Goldenfields can run the water. We're better off fixing up the water pressure in Harden before we did that. Improving the power line to Burra. What's that got to do with Hilltop Shire? There's a transgrid or essential entity problem. The same with the transmission tower, not our problem. But we go on to a question. I did send an email to everybody about the installation of a weighbridge at Burra. How much did it cost? Why, when Burra Council spent $800,000 plus changing the transfer station, and the material all goes to Red Hill, or Dugong, sorry, anyhow. Commercial waste should be going to Dugong, Red Hill, and according to instructions to me many times, thou shalt take it to Young or Dugong. It cannot go to Burra. But apparently that's changing with the weighbridge. And weighbridges, to my mind, I don't know how much it costs. I dare say we're looking high 400s. Now, the proposed landfill costs were discussed at the community meeting across the hall, and we were told the proposed costings were not locked in, but apparently now they have been. Now, according to council's own data, the agriculture sector is the biggest employer in Hilltop Shire. Now, at the forum, it was put that a $500 fee to be placed on each farm lot, culminating in 5 years. And I think that on my particular block, I've got three houses on one block. And if you think I'm paying $1,500 for a service I'm not going to get, it's not going to happen. It is not. No farmer is going to fork out. Potter Park has 30 houses on their block. Do you think they're going to fork out 15 grand for something they don't get? It's not happening. Now, what that does, if you go to your documents, refer to 12.2, refers to that section, and it is vague to the extreme. Provide for the aggregation of certain parcels of land for the purpose of annual voice charges consistent with section 51B of the Local Government Act. What's that mean? And you guys are voting on this. It's going to hurt in everyone. All these costs go on. Rents go up. Everything goes up. Now,
You've got a minute left.
I'm talking slow. Sorry. Now you should actually all read that email from Mr. McCormick. We were told, double dipping. I believe it is double dipping, but we were told that the waste services in your documents had a $4.5 million loss for 24-25, and yet 2016, your own documents, it had a surplus and forecasting a surplus for the next 10 years. Where to go? Did no one see $4.5 million going down the gurgler? Waste is a problem. Fiscal waste is a bigger problem for this council. Now, under the Act, under the largesse of the Mayor, if anyone wants to ask me a question, they can. If they don't.
That's correct. So there's no questions. Thank you very much for your presentation, Mr. Byrne.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll stop the clock. And we have a second speaker tonight, Mrs. Jamie Parker, in regard to item 12.13, the draft Hilltop Cemetery Management Plan. So, Mrs. Parker, saying that you get 5 minutes, I'll just give you a warning at 4 minutes and let you know how you're going. So,
perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come along this afternoon. I'm just here to speak to the draft cemetery management policy. The previous policy deeply affected myself and my family in January this year. It was handled in a not so good way, in our opinion. The previous draft, and I do commend you for the changes that have been made to this new draft that you've now got on tabling tonight. I do believe there are still areas there that can be addressed further. So I personally would like to see, so Hardin and Burrawa still have 20 years left, according to your table, of spaces available. I'm not saying to open it up open slather for reservations. What I am merely proposing is to have a set amount of reservations available per year. These are small communities. I believe from the table that was posted, both communities had around 13 burials on average per year. So it's not huge. It's not huge at all. So that's one thing I would like to see done. The other thing I would like to see looked at in that is for anything that's left at the cemetery. A lot of people put personal mementos, things that meant something to their loved one. It's got in there that to a reasonable person. We're all slightly unhinged in some way. I'd like to see further clarification on how you are deeming who that reasonable person is. You know, some people will take offence. Some people may take offence to a cross. So we need to be very mindful of that. I'd also like to touch on a couple of other things. I still believe I've got time. The triple depth, thank you for putting that into place. That was a huge struggle for my family. So I'd like to see more staff trained in digging triple depth. I don't believe that one for the entire Hilltop Shire is enough. In our case, that gentleman was on holidays and I'm very happy he took leave. However, it delayed the burial of my father. We ended up being, I think it was 12 days from passing until when we were able to bury him. So more training for staff. I don't think that's a huge ask. And you've also got to look at your contingency plan there. If that staff member retires tomorrow or finds other employment, you're back to square one. Also, perhaps designating an area in each cemetery for triple depth so that people aren't waiting a week for approval, which was our case. And we did have some help, and I'm eternally grateful for that help to be able to go triple depth. But it's a very sensitive time. We must also commend the staff. The Hardin Memorial Cemetery has certainly improved. I've made a lot of comments previously regarding this, and I must say that that cemetery is in much better shape nowadays. And I know my other family members have reached out to several of the councillors here as well. So do commend the people involved there. The draft policies, I know when the first one came out, it was said 28 days. The draft policy was not available online. It was not available until the Monday. It popped up online on I believe it was Saturday afternoon. However, those people who don't have access to the internet could not access that until the Monday. So therefore they're not receiving the full 28 days. And last but not least, in Harden, now I've been told this by some staff, current and previous members, there is in fact a watercourse underneath part of the Harden Lawn Cemetery. We're burying people in the water.
You've got 1 minute to go.
Yep, cool, thank you. So that's really not okay by any standard. I have spoke to a resident of Harden who is very distraught by the fact her husband could not swim, and to think that he is eternally buried in what's essentially a water table. So that's all I've got. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barker. No questions? Thank you for that. Clock off. The next item on the agenda is a statement of ethical obligations, which is taken as read. The next item of that is apologies or request to attend by digital means. And we have a request. Mr. General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have a request from Councillor Stadmiller to attend by digital means for health reasons and carer duties.
Could I have a mover for that? Councillor Davis, seconder. Councillor Ingram. All those in favour? Could you hold your hands in there, please? All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4. That's carried. Councillor Stadmiller is attending via Zoom. The next item on the agenda, I'd ask everyone to be upstanding, please, for expressions of sympathy. Trim up, the button's tight. I would ask everyone for a moment's silence to express our sympathy on the passing of the following: Stephen Dwyer, Maureen Corkery, Sadie Balcom, Stephen Lusick, Sarah Robinson, Francis Hoskins, Matthew Dunlop, Pauline Smith, Daphne Doherty, Josephina Corwell, Narath Stiles, John Hodges, Kevin Powell, Peter Hall, Keith Windus, and Cedric Demesta. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. We've lost Councillor Stadmiller. Oh no, he's back. You there, Councillor Stadmiller?
Yep. Here, Mr. Mayor, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can. You're just all blacked out while we're doing that part of it. I wasn't sure. So.
That's all right. I'm stuck behind a table in a
All good.
little room in this.
Thank you,
Yep.
Councillor. All good. Next item on the agenda is the confirmation. I'm sorry. Yep, I am right. Confirmation of minutes for the last council meeting. Moved Councillor Flannery. Seconded Councillor Blackwell. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 7 on the agenda is any disclosures of interest? Does anyone have any disclosures of interest to declare for tonight's meeting? Take that as a no. Thank you. Mayoral minute, nil. Mayoral report. My diary's there, councillors. I had previously stated that I was going to meet with representatives HRDC, but due to falling ill for a week, that never occurred. And I did attend the regional and rural summit till lunchtime, till the illness took over, and the general manager stayed and took part in that, and I had to be bettered. So that's what happened there. So could I have I'll move. Happy to move my diary. Any seconded? Councillor Flannery, thank you. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. We go to councillors' reports. Do I have a mover and a seconder? Move Councillor Blackwell, seconded Councillor Dodd. First off is Councillor Blackwell. Do you have anything to add, Councillor Blackwell?
No, as minuted, thank you.
I have a question, Councillor Blackwell. I've been asked by members of the community, and I had to look it up myself. 13th of May, there's a meeting with On Country's Pathways. I didn't know what On Country Pathways was, but I did some investigating and found out. But no one else seemed to know. The general manager wasn't aware of any meeting, and the director wasn't aware of any meeting called, and I wasn't. So I'm just wondering what that was about. Given that you're well aware you can't speak for council,
Yeah.
and or your mob, so I'm just wondering why that's there.
They reached out to me as an organisation that works in Harden, as an Indigenous member of the council, just to work out who to talk to first. They weren't sure of who to talk to. I directed them to the Land Council and to the directors, only because I happened to be in Harden that day. Otherwise, I wouldn't have taken the meeting, but they just wanted to have a chat to introduce themselves. I knew some of their previous employees in another life and didn't know they were working out of Harden, and so provided them some contacts for the director and the Young Aboriginal Land Council.
Thank you for that. I hope the people who had asked about that now have a better understanding of what happened. So thank you. Councillor Dodd.
Nothing further to add, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Foreman.
I just need to add, I attended the Young Family and Domestic Violence Reference Group meeting, and I also did my cyber security training on the 21st of May. Thank you.
Thank you. As we go along, we've got Councillor Gallo.
As minuted, and I just have to add the Graham School Open Day and the Jugyong Barbecue. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Langford.
Meeting suspended, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Mackie.
I do have to delete the Australia Day Committee meeting at Boorowa. I didn't get to it, but I did complete my cybersecurity training. I can't remember the date. It was early May.
Thank you. So that takes me to Councillor Douglas.
I was late, but as minuted.
Thank you. Councillor Flannery.
I went to Anzac Day, the dawn service, Gaylong, the Harden Anzac Day service. Also attend the Rye Park Wind Farm opening, the Barwang Celador opening, this council meeting, the workshop, and a Gaylong VPA meeting, and a constituent meeting. Didn't that be a record for me for a month, I reckon?
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Stadmiller.
A few Anzac Day commemoration services and meetings as minuted, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor. And I'd just like to thank my deputy and also Councillor Gallo, who, and there might have been someone else who put their hand up to go to a function that I couldn't make due to being away or ill. So thank you, councillors. So all those in favour of accepting those reports? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item number 11 is Community Recognition Scheme, and I'll hand over to Councillor Gallo now, as Councillor Gallo's got a nomination there. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'd just like to nominate the Murrumburra Light Horse Troop. I think the brief is pretty much self-explanatory, but they attend all the events that we have that revolve around, you know, Anzac Day, that sort of thing. They also attend the hospital and the nursing home with their horses and their staff, and it's just they're a great group of people, and yeah, I'd like to really thank them for doing it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Gallo. And yeah, they are well worthy of a recognition. So, Councillor Gallo will move that recognition. Councillor Stadmiller, seconded or what?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a community recognition of the local emergency services who attended the two B doubles that crashed on William Bradford Bridge last Friday night. It's a terrible stretch of road and a terrible bridge, and they're often getting called out this time in wet weather and in the dark to do a nasty job. Thankfully, no lives were lost, but if we could address that to Station Commander Wal Lee now, he'll make sure that gets out to the relevant brigade. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any further recommendations? Councillor Gallo, you happy to move those community recognitions? A seconder? Councillor Douglas, thank you. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Okay, so now, before I go to the General Manager's report, we had 2 items spoke on in the public forum. So I would now ask council to vote to a move and a second to bring those 2 items forward. Moved Councillor Flannery, seconded Councillor Douglas. All those in favour? Okay, so that takes us to item 12.6, which is page 232 of the paper. I haven't got my computer laptop on. Yeah, 232. 232. Councillor Gallo, you got the page? Yeah, okay. So everyone's got the page where we're at? It's the endorsement of the Hilltops Community Strategic Plan 2042, the 2025 review, the Hilltops Delivery Program 25 to 29, the Hilltops Operational Plan 25 to 26, and Hilltops Council Resource Strategy and Results of Public Consultation. Do I have a mover? Moved Councillor Douglas, seconded Councillor Davis. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor Douglas?
Director, I just have a few questions. Let me just get my little page ready. In attachment 5 under the asset management, we are still listing netball club dressing sheds and netball toilets at Miro Street as assets, renewable assets. We're also listing buildings at the sale yards, which I believe are no longer standing. I just wanted to find out what these figures mean and where do they go? The figures listed, are they used for anything apart from information purposes, or are they used for insurance or anything like that?
Most of it's just for the purpose of those plans. They guide our capital investments in the long-term financial plan, but they're not set in stone as such.
So through Mr. Mayor, just to emphasise that it's a list of assets, and obviously you can see there's thousands of assets. So as you pointed out, there are some anomalies where assets may no longer be there. Certainly, we would not budget to replace something that's not there. And as we know, for example, the sale yards, that's under a separate council to look at dismantling the assets out there. So those are the things, as the director said, would be looked at. The question in relation to what we rely upon insurance, that's relied upon an asset list that is used, which forms part of the audited financial statements. They are the actual assets that are being insured.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, just to double check that they're being double checked and they're not listing items that aren't there anymore.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, in relation to the insurance, they are known assets, and if anything, our insurance list, we continue to add to that as we find some of the assets that historically may not have come across the process through the amalgamation process where all the asset lists were trying to be consolidated. So it is a work in process, but materially it is correct as evidenced by the sign-off of the audit.
Thank you. I do have one more question. If that would
Yep,
be
Councillor.
okay. Waste management seems to be a large one. I just wanted to confirm for rural rates that keys will be removed and general access will be removed, and waste will only be able to be delivered as such when it's manned.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, the commitment that we made to the community was that security would be improved at all the waste facilities. For the time being, key access will be maintained at facilities where key access is available. We are likely to have to reissue keys for a number of those facilities to ensure that only people who should have access to those facilities have access. However, over time, we'll be moving to other security measures such as manning the facilities to ensure that those facilities are secure and only used by the people who are entitled to use them.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I did speak to the OLG this afternoon to clarify, so I'd also like to ask whether you could also clarify as well. I was advised that if council are charging an annual fee for waste management and a pay-as-you-go user system at the tips, they were also not to provide keys as such, because then you're disadvantaging some ratepayers over the others of how much waste that they can take in and whether they're being charged or non-charged for it.
Yep, that's correct. For the sites where we are able to charge, they will not have key access. So at the moment in the Young area, there's no exemption in the fees and charges from disposal fees at the rural and village facilities. However, we can only charge for drop-off where we can physically charge for drop-off. So at sites that are manned, we will charge drop-off fees. Sites that have a key access arrangement, currently we cannot charge drop-off charges at those sites. However, as part of improving the security of the sites over time, we will be able to charge for drop-off, and there will no longer be key access to those sites.
So just to confirm, some people will have to pay, whether they're rural ratepayers, some people won't pay rural ratepayers.
Yes, we will charge where we are able to charge.
Thank you, Councillor Douglas, and thank you, Director. Anyone want to speak against the recommendation or would have any questions? Now's the time. I'm happy to take them. Councillor Flannery, you got your finger on the button. Yep. Oh, sorry, Councillor Stadmiller. No, look up. Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of the terms here. I'm in where I was last time, asset name, the red heading, forecast renewal year and the renewal cost, sort of about 3 columns. It's got structure, roof, fire, security, mechanical, electrical, internal. It's got Young Cherry Capital Centre structure, 4,424,283. I'm just wondering, that's a larger figure. How do we come to that sort of figure? And seeing as that's 5 years away, that could no doubt blow out in costings. Is that factored in any sort of way in regards to materials?
I'll hand over to the General Manager.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. As indicated by the Director, the asset management plan is an estimate of the future on what we could expect to refresh, renew those assets. As we come closer and that work is to actually be performed, that would form part of, I suppose you could say, a full-blown costing exercise, which would form part of the budgetary process, which we would bring before council. So just to emphasise, the asset management plan is not a commitment to spend that money. It is an expectation on where we expect a sum of money to be spent for assets across all of the assets, and certainly we would never have the funding to spend all of that money across all of the assets. But it is we are more focused upon the operational plan and the delivery program. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you for that, Mr.
Yeah,
General Manager.
Just very quickly, just on the Harden Courthouse, I recall when former Councillor Horton was Mayor at Harden, a substantial amount of money was spent there rectifying that, and in 5 years' time, it's got over $500,000 allocated there. Something that would be more pressing would be the Harden Institute Hall, which has $1.3 million sort of allocated in 5 years' time, and it's suffered from some flooding, which has done some damage. I'm just wondering whether some of the councillors or some of the long-term staff, are they getting together with the directors, or can we have that opportunity to maybe prioritise some of these things from local knowledge? Like, look, going down that back lane behind that museum, it's pretty bleak as to what's going on and what could happen in the next flood. So,
Thank you, Councillor. I don't know whether the General Manager wants to speak to that, but from my point of view, that document and those numbers are aspirational and guesstimates at best, and they're not a commitment to spend that money on those particular items. So I don't know if the General Manager wants to say anything more to that. We'll let it go. If any more questions, I'll go to Councillor Flannery. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, just on some of the points raised by John Byrne, he was good enough to come into the public forum, and I think we should always congratulate community members that come and speak to us, whether we like to hear what they say or not.
Yep.
So thank you for that. I tend to agree in essence with a lot of what he says, but we also have an obligation to ratepayers. We've got an obligation to grow the size of our council area and the industry without potable water and an upgraded transmission line. Yes, the water is our problem. We are responsible for water. Transmission line, not our problem, but we still tend to support agencies that deliver those services. And if we want industry in Boorowa, we need those issues. I'll ask the General Manager or the Director for an update on the weighbridge at Boorowa, the relevance of it and the cost in a second. But potable water, we raised this at last council meeting. We really need to engage with the Boorowa community, because at the end of the day, a grant is no more than the delivery of a project. At the end of the day, it's the users who will pay, and the depreciation value of the asset needs to be brought into it. So we do need to be clear with what is going to happen there. Look, I think our financial improvement strategy is working, and we are looking to be in a far better position now and in the next 12 months than we were 12 months ago. So I commend councillors who were responsible for the implementation of that and staff who have implemented it. I'll ask the General Manager to speak to us about, because I've had a number of complaints about waste being delivered to Boorowa when Red Hill and the Young Tip, I've just got a mental blank, has been closed, and we're only costing ourselves money. So.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll ask the director to talk to the weighbridge first, and then maybe talk about the charges as well.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the weighbridge at Burrawa been installed not only to track waste coming in, but also to track waste going out. We have a regulatory obligation under the EPA's legislation to be able to report accurately on the amount of waste of certain types coming into and out of the facility. We also have a obligation under chain of responsibility requirements for road transport through the Southwest Regional Waste Management Group to be able to ensure that the vehicles transporting the group's waste comply with their load limits. And a weighbridge on the site allows us to do that reliably and safely. The total cost of the weighbridge was about $150,000, including GST, and that came out of the approved capital budget for Burrawa.
I have been there a while ago. Has the weighbridge been built, delivered?
It has been built. There's some improvements we're making to make people feel more secure travelling across it. Yes, some some sides and plates down the middle to assure people that they're not going to fall through the gaps. They're not going to fall through the gaps, but to make people feel more comfortable, we're doing some more work on the weighbridge.
Thank you. One of the other comments of Councillor Byrne was the $500 waste access fee. Look, I'm opposed to it in many ways too, because I think I don't tend to use the waste, but at the end of the day, we've still got to deliver waste services, and it's the availability of the waste facility. I think in the cases like Flutter Park or multiple houses, I think there needs to be some further debate about it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that is the section that Mr. Byrne referred to is the section which we've allowed for. And I made that clear to the people that questioned me while I was out that we were working on it, and that is the section where you can consolidate within the parameters to ensure that there's one dwelling, you will get the one access charge rather than the 10, even up to 10 separate lots. Sorry about that.
Yeah, look, it's probably unclear to me, even when we voted on it, that or was accepted, how that will work. Do you then give up your lot?
No. It's certainly the part of the consideration is we don't want people to change the nature of the DP because that is succession planning and whatever you want to do with the land. But for the purposes of the allocation of that charge, we can consolidate it and still be legislated. So it doesn't affect the DP elements its nature.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, councillor.
If I may just
Yep.
add, in terms of the wording that's used for that ability to combine lots for the purpose of charges, that's restricted by the Local Government Act. So the wording that is used in the draft revenue policy is the wording used in the Act.
Okay, thank you. Have any other council, any other questions or comments in regard to that item? No, if not, I'll put that item. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Stadmiller noted against.
Thank you.
Glasses on. The other item I spoke about in public forum was item 12.13. We flick back a couple of pages, people. For you. I can't find it. There it is. Yeah, 12.13. 328 in the paper copy anyway, which is the draft Hilltops Cemetery Management Plan. Everyone's got the page? Yep. I got act for a mover and a seconder to start moved. Councillor Dodd, thank you. Seconded Councillor Blackwell, thank you. The recommendation is to receive and note the report on submissions to the draft Hilltop Cemetery Management Policy and adopt the attached draft Hilltop Cemetery Management plan. Councillor Dodd, would you like to speak?
I would. Along with the Speaker in public forum, I would like to commend the way that council staff have listened to the concerns and have answered all those submissions that we've received and done what we can, or council staff have done what they can to consider all those perspectives. And it's great that people actually felt that they could, that they engaged with this policy. So thank you for that. I have a couple of questions. One was just raised around the staff training re triple depth. That's something that won't affect this policy but can be actioned. And I just wanted to, I suppose, have that to let the residents know that that has been listened to and will be actioned.
Yep.
And so thank you. And clarification on the water course, is that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the water course has no relevance to the policy. We can bring back further information on that if you would like that at a later meeting.
So it's not going to affect, because surely that would affect what can be graves that can be dug and to what depth, if there was one?
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor. The reason why the policy is worded in relation to triple depth, although it may not seem like much, the difference between the depth to do 2 and the depth to do 3, I understand it's sort of 40 centimetres within the part, effectively a casket. Seems a bit brutal to say that, but there it is. But that depth makes a big difference on the integrity of the wall. And the reason why, and I'd spoken to Ms. Parker, the reason why we wouldn't recommend designating an area for it, it's you don't know what lies beneath until you've dug into the plot. It's only when you get to that depth do you see if there's any water or anything of that nature. And so that's why, as the director has articulated, the water issue is a practical issue. It's an operational issue that we must deal with. Well, the crews must deal with as we come across it.
Okay, thank you. I think that was all. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Dodd. Anyone want to speak against the matter or more questions?
First question. We've got 20 years of burial land left at Harden Boorowa, but I've been on council by the time I finish 20 years, and believe me, it goes quickly. So I guess, is there land available adjoining Harden Boorowa, or do we need to go to alternative sites, is one question. Do we only have one staff member capable of triple burials? And then on the triple burials, and I did do quite a bit of research into this and spoke to a fellow who has a licence for doing burials in an alternate shire, only because I happen to know him personally. My understanding is has very little to do with the actual integrity of the land. It's a WHS issue for people attending the funerals. And he said to me that if a triple burial site has been reserved, they dig to the depth of one casket with the approval of the family. After the burial, they pull the casket out. Then they dig to the triple depth. They put that casket in, cover it over, and then they're only going to 2 depths. And I can tell you, he's responsible for 18 cemeteries in another site, so he knows what he's talking about. But so I think we need a bit more research on that. It has he said if the cemetery has the integrity for people to be buried there, it is highly unlikely that there's an issue with triple burials. And when you're doing resumptions or whatever the word is, you might need shoring up in that case when a plot has been dug. But I think we need a bit more information or detail on that.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, look, that was the advice that I had, that they our process has been to dig to the triple then and there. But I'll certainly have that discussion from a process point of view on how we can do it safer and make it more active. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery.
And then do we know
Through-
on the alternative, the sites for Harden and Boorowa? Because I guess, look, I'm happy to support this as it stands, but depending on available land, and it will definitely come up. These have to be, is it every 3 years represented? I guess we might consider whether we amend the policy in the future.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, it's something that we are looking at and identifying land for Boorowa and Harden Cemetery expansions. And in relation to your question about only one staff member being able to dig to triple depth, that's not correct. And we are able, as the Hilltops, to send staff members to any cemetery within the Hilltops. So I think that may have come from someone saying that there wasn't anyone qualified to do that in Harden, but we could send someone from anywhere.
Thank you for that. Councillor Blackwell's question.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just related to Mrs. Parker's commentary, which again I commend her for coming in and making the trek to come talk to us all. She's no longer in the audience. Around a reasonable person, we obviously have a varied degree of faiths, backgrounds of people in the Hilltops. How are we managing what is considered a reasonable person's view in the case of interfaith or intercultural burial or funeral practices?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure how we would answer that. I think it would be up to council staff to determine what a reasonable memento or monument would be. Something non-offensive.
Through Mr. Mayor, someone talked to me about that, and it's actually the intent of it is not to have it an area that's spilling over with multiple items, etc. It's the general, the ambience and tidiness of it. But certainly any religious symbol, a reasonable person would not touch someone else's religious symbol.
Thank you for that. Any other questions in regard to the matter? Councillor Stadmiller.
Is there anyone to speak against it, Mr. Mayor?
Floor's yours.
Thank you. I just want to speak against it because I think the person who spoke, Miss Jamie Parker, is a bit of a beacon of common sense and been at the coalface recently in regards to this matter, and she's still not entirely happy with how this process has gone and how it will continue to go. So councillors need to be in mind that this probably should come back to council not within 3 years, but as soon as possible. There's going to be circumstances which are going to happen within a month's time or 2 months' time that are going to rear their head again because this policy still isn't suitable, and that's why I'll be voting against. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Councillor Stadmiller. If there's no other questions in regard to the matter, I'd give the right of reply to Councillor Dodd.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to say that I feel that this policy has addressed all the issues that were raised, and any issues that are still outstanding now are around council process, and that can be done separately and looked at by the director and staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. On that note, I'll put the item. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Stadmiller noted as against. Thank you, councillors. Having dealt with those two matters, we will wind the clock back and go back to item 12 on page 30, which the General Manager's report. And a mover and a seconder, please. Councillor Blackwell and Councillor Gallo, thank you. Yeah. All those in favour? Against? I'm starting to really feel that this needs to be looked at, whether it needs to be there at all. We can't question anyone on the matter, so I don't really think it should stay there anyway. Move on. It's been dealt with. Item 12.2.
I find
I'm sorry.
Can I ask
sorry,
what FOGO
Councillor.
means? If it's going to be there, and what FOGO means?
We've dealt with the matter. I'm sorry. I'll move on to 12.2. General Manager's leave cover. 7th of July to 22nd of July 2025. There's a little report there, councillors, and the recommendation is to acknowledge the dates of the General Manager's leave between 7 July 25 and 22 July 25. appoint Sarah Caradiana, Director of Corporate and Community, to the role of Acting General Manager during this period and pass on all delegations of the General Manager to the Acting General Manager as appropriate. I'm looking for a mover and a second to move. Councillor Foreman, second to Councillor Davis. Thank you. Any questions in regard to the matter? I'll put that. All those in favour? Against? It's unanimous. Thanks, councillors. Item 12.3, General Manager's delegations. And the recommendation is the council receive and note the report on the review of the delegations for the General Manager. Adopt the delegations of authority for the General Manager as detailed in the attached instrument of delegations, and that the delegations remain in force from 28 May 2025. N. C. Note the delegation are a printout of all eligible functions currently provided for in the local government legal database. The vast majority of those delegations are eligible to the General Manager. I like that word. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Move, Councillor Flannery, second, Councillor Mackie. Thank you. I like to look at that word. Yeah. Okay.
Question.
Question, Councillor Stadmiller.
Question for the General Manager. How many of these from A to, I suppose, U are new delegations for the General Manager?
Through Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, what was the question?
How many of the delegations are new that you haven't previously had before, if any?
None.
None? Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions in regard to that item? No, then I'll put that matter. All those in favour? Unanimous. Councillors. Item 12.4, Councillor Remuneration, 25-26. Recommendation is there, Council, that
So moved.
moved Councillor Flannery. Thank you. Seconded, Councillor. I shouldn't laugh. You've made me laugh. Councillor Langford, thank you. Any commentary, any questions? I speak against it. Speak now. If not, I'll put the matter. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 12.5 is the disclosure of interest returns, and the recommendation is note the table of register of returns, and note that they were up for the period of 1st of July 23 to 30 June 24. Top mover, Councillor Blackwell. Seconded, Councillor Dodd. Thank you. Any questions in regard to that matter? I'll put that. All those in favour? Thank you, councillors. It's unanimous. 12.6 we've dealt with. 12.7, Hilltops Economic Development Strategy 2025 to 2030. And the recommendation is that we approve the draft Hilltops Economic Development Strategy to be placed on public exhibition for 28 days, and if there are no submissions received, adopt the said policy. After mover, Councillor Foreman, thank you. Seconded, Councillor Davis. Any questions? Would like to speak to it, Councillor?
Question, do we have, sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, do we have a economic development committee within council?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, no, we don't have one in the. Do you mean an external committee?
No, internal and external.
Well, internal is the staff that work in the economic development space plus the executive, and externally it was not on the list of committees that council recently endorsed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Foreman, did you want to speak to?
I would just to make a comment. Like, I welcome this this development strategy, but I just, during reading it, I just sort of thought to myself, we have to be mindful of how we grow as a region, and we need to sort of like look at each of our different towns and sort of identify, which they did mention in there, identify what we actually what each town wants to represent each as, and then look at that as a Hilltops overarching thing, because I think sometimes we kind of almost don't know who we actually are as little towns to then grow, and just be mindful of how we do that, just grow mindfully, just in the way of, you know, I suppose just different technology and things that might come our way. So but welcome, it's a good starting point and it's a good document to look at. Would actually be nice at some point to have a bit of a workshop around where we think we're headed as a region and what the council and possibly then the community thinks of what they would like their towns to look like going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Any other commentary or questions, councillor Blackwell?
Yeah, just a quick question from me. How much of this is stuff we actually think is going, like, how much of this is ambitious versus actionable, I guess is the question. And also just a note, a comment that according to the graph on page 13 of the document, we're in a trade deficit as a council, so a certain US politician might mention tariffs as an option, but it's more of a joke for those in the crowd. But seriously, you know, back to the more substantive question, how much of this is kind of an ambitious goal for us versus an actionable plan?
Okay. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll cover kind of both comments and questions. So absolutely to maintain the identity of each individual community that's always going to happen. In relation to both comments or questions, this provides a framework, so some direction for where, as a region, we're heading. There would be lots of involvement from community and industry to make sure that it's not something that council's just going to say, this is the direction we're going. And it would entail constant review, so to make sure that we're getting it right. And who's to say in 5 years this would still be relevant. Councillor Blackwell, in relation to your questions, I guess it is aspirational in terms of it not actually having a budget or deliverables attached to it, specific projects. But again, it's things that we feel that we can do at the moment or that we can advocate for or collaborate with industry to move in the right direction.
Thank you for that. My comment to that would be aim high. That's what it's all about. So. Any other commentary or questions to staff in regard to that matter? Councillor Stadmiller.
Mr. Mayor, maybe one for you because you've been in Young for 20 years. This is the way I see it. Harden and Bora are satellite towns of Young, and Young's pushing ahead, no longer needs agriculture to survive. So there's probably our answer. How have you seen Young change in the 20 odd years that you've been there in agriculture and probably in the CBD?
I could probably answer that by saying it's definitely improved since I've been here, but I don't want to take that part of it. Young has always had the advantage of, you talk about size and scope. I suppose when you talk about the other two communities and the smaller communities, and the agriculture is still the main driver, don't worry about that. But as is the case in all regional New South Wales, those areas that are just big enough to tick over and create their own employment and more jobs. Goulburn is a prime example, being a bit close to the metropolitan helped, but it's grown enormously, Goulburn, and hopefully, as we've seen with the development in Boorowa, there's opportunities for Boorowa to expand as well. Harden, well, yeah, it's struggling at the moment. There's no doubt about that. And how we fix that as a council, the best thing we can do is be positive. And we know there's been some issues in Harden that was out of our control with a terrible storm and the damage that was done, and still waiting to be repaired, some of it, and insurance companies, and there's a lot of things to take into factor there. But we need to be positive about it, and hopefully, as the Hilltops region, we all grow together. So that's about how I'd answer that question. I hope that covers it off a bit for you, councillor.
Thank you.
Councillor Flannery.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, just on that, clearly Harden has been negatively impacted since amalgamation. There's no secrets about that, but it's our job to, I guess, deal with what's in front of us. I think we should set up a economic development committee that probably only realistically should meet twice a year. So I'd like to move an amendment to it that we have C, that an economic development committee be formed and be brought back. And look, realistically, I think it should be the whole of council. We just have 2 workshops a year where they are dedicated to to going through the strategy and what's in front of us for the next 12 months and what can be done. So I'd like to move that we held 2 workshops a year focused on the economic development strategy of council. 2 workshops as a minimum.
Thank
as
you.
part
So
C.
Councillor Foreman was the original mover of this, I believe. Is that correct? Are you happy to accept that amendment, councillor?
Yeah, I think the workshops, like I suggested, would be great.
Becomes part of the motion. So dot point C is included.
Councillor Flannery, it's there on the screen. Is that on the money?
Yep, that's great. So
Thank you.
we'll leave it to staff to develop a document that they bring to us. And I have raised at a previous council meeting some months ago that businesses in Harden say to me they're not getting the procurement they used to from council, that things are more centralised around Young. So they're talking specifically about the workshops, I guess. And the general manager said he would review it. So we can't be prescriptive, but I would hope that where the various businesses around Harden can be engaged with from council, they should be, and I assume Borough is likewise. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. So given that that amendment's been accepted by the mover, that's now part of the recommendation. So I'll put that. All those in favour? Thank you, councillor. It's unanimous. 12.8 is the quarterly budget review, and the recommendation is receive and note the quarterly budget review for March and adopt the recommended variations to the Hilltop Council budget 24-25 as set out in the March Hilltops Council quarterly budget review. After a mover and the seconder, Councillor Blackwell, seconded by Councillor Douglas. Thank you. Councillor Blackwell, would you like to speak or question in regard to the budget review?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you. Has anyone else got so many questions in regard to the council plenary?
Look, I have quite a few, so I'll get started on some and then stop if anyone else would like to ask questions. So starting on page 240, user fees and charges, an increase in user charges of 923,855 is a result of additional state road work. Where is that state road work?
That would be heavy patching on Main Road 78 and tree removal across the state road network.
When was it performed?
Yeah. So it's still in progress, about 70 or 80% complete, as at the QBR.
There's probably a number of questions that are here. Operating grants is reflecting an increase of 300, made up an increase in income of 400,000 of routine maintenance, 22,000 household chemical cleanup, 100,000 for multicultural event, Cherry Festival. So the 400,000 routine maintenance is presumably is it shoulder grading? The chemical cleanup, has it occurred? When is it to occur? It seems like a lot of money for a household chemical cleanup. The 100,000 for the Cherry Festival. That I'll ask the corporate director. But okay, 400,000 for routine maintenance is which roads does that apply to?
So that 400,000 for routine maintenance would be under the road maintenance contract with Transport for New South Wales. So it's state roads. And yes, things such as shoulder maintenance, pothole repairs, guardrail repairs, maintenance on the sealed roads.
How much advice do we normally get on that work coming through?
Sorry, could you clarify?
Do they foreshadow that do we get a month's notice? Do we get, while you're there, do this?
It varies depending on the work and what they've already engaged us to do.
Okay, thank you. The 743,000 increase flood restoration work for the Australian government, reference number AGRN 103, being September 22 event across Hilltops. Work is ongoing. It's 3 years old. Have we suddenly been advised of an increase? The damage increased?
No, so
Through you, Mr. Mayor. This is a program that happened back in that period, and it's taken a while to get through that because there's been ongoing events. But there was the initial storm damage, and we're trying to get through those events at this particular point in time. As you know, there are other events that have come on as well, but this is the major event that went across the whole Shire where it just continued to rain.
So that we're just spending that money now.
We're just getting through to finalising that particular AGRN. Yes.
Look, someone, you or Duncan, the $215,000 decrease to nearly 216, that all works have not been completed. When was the completion date for that? And is there a reason we didn't complete them? What work didn't get done?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I think you'll find the event happened very close to each other. We did the initial works, we scoped those works, we'd completed those works in under that budget, and then the time frame for that budget, for that allocation of funding had ended. So it's back-to-back programs.
So it's not that we didn't get through the work, it's that another storm event meant start again. Right. Because I did actually ask the former general manager, had we lost any funding from storm events for work we didn't complete on time? And I was told no, but anyway, okay, that's good to know. 1.2 on page 241, $1.256 million increase reduced plant recovery as plant that was allocated to the capital program was used on other projects. It should say were, I think, on other projects as all the operational works, including increased trans. 1.25 million seems a huge increase in work. I would have thought that's probably difficult to get through in a quarter. But given this is for a quarter, I would have thought that's hard to get through in a quarter.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as we get closer to the end of the year, we do our reconciliations for the programs that have been. Where we have used a plant in other areas, we've corrected that in our budgets, i.e. the use of contractors to be able to potentially maintain and do those works in the timeframes to try and complete that capital program through the course of the year. So, yes, we obviously had budgeted for that amount, and it's gone back into the operating area through other aspects of being used for maintenance.
Sorry, I've got plenty of questions here. $200,000 increase for waste collection. Again, I gather that's on an audit to find out, because I wouldn't have thought a $200,000 increase in a quarter would occur. $251,000 increase in insurance premiums. Again, I would have thought we should be closer to the number than being out by 200. I guess the point I'm making a lot of these questions is it seems to be big numbers that we're out by when we're just reviewing them on a quarterly basis. And 200,000 for waste collection seems a big jump. Insurance premium seems a big adjustment.
Sorry, through you, Mr. Mayor, just in relation to the waste, that's impacted by the event. So the event that's happened, so there was a lot of waste that happened there. That may not explain all of it, but that's part of it. But the 251 insurance premium, we are beholden to the insurance, and they come up with a brand new figure. We did say that it would be in the vicinity of $250,000, and that's the figure. So we've put it through when we know the actual figure from the insurance company.
Okay, I still think it's a big adjustment quarterly, but fair enough.
So do I. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
In terms of our overall premium, it's through the document a number of times, but it says McLean and Station Street Oval, and the name is actually Doolan Oval. In respect to Tim Doolan, that can be corrected. Detail the Young Water Meter Capital Program. Most of the water meter and waterworks, we haven't achieved what was set out, but Young, there's 428,000 or 429,000 of infrastructure work that wasn't completed, 300,000 of water meter installation. Are we getting our timings out significantly? What's the issue?
So in relation to the water and sewer capital programs, I'll speak to Young firstly. we have had resourcing issues in the water and sewer area. The team has been running at about half strength for most of the year. We have been recruiting and working on structural issues to try and get that resourcing up. However, that has taken time. And those staff have been mainly working on maintenance of the network and unavailable to do capital work. We've also had resourcing issues in the engineering space, with only one water engineer working on the entirety of the water and sewer technical space, and that has delayed some of the work that we would have given to contractors. And we've also been awaiting the finalisation of the CCTV and smoke testing program, particularly in Young, which gives us a better understanding of the asset condition of the sewer reticulation network for Young.
Just on the staff being at 50% of capacity, how long has that been the case? Because we voted in that we'd do the water meter ourselves, so we weren't using contractors. Have we just recently lost staff? Are we increasing the number from where we were 12 months ago? What is the situation?
No, so we have been at a similar level for most of the year. And like I said, we have been working on recruiting to those roles and improving the structure so it's easier to recruit appropriately qualified people.
Sorry, through Mr. Mayor, I'll just add to that, given the person I sign off on the recruitment, it seems like every time we add one or two people, we lose one or two people. So there has been a turnover, particularly in that area, and we are looking into the reasons why. And as Duncan said, as we have not been able to build critical mass, our efforts have been to build it up.
So where we are today, are we likely to get through? Obviously, these are all pushed back a year. We get more. I mean, the water meters, I would have thought, are fairly critical because they give us data that will be significantly useful. They reduce water wastage, which we as a council have to pay for. Are we likely to get through the proposed program for next year based on where we're currently sitting?
Yes, I believe we will get through the proposed program for next year. Particularly on the smart meters, we're expecting to have the tender out to market mid-June. That's been quite a complex tender to work through because of the technology involved and the need to be brand agnostic, so we don't unintentionally prefer one supplier over another. And given the limited competition in the market, that's quite difficult. And as I said, we do have some capacity issues in the engineering space, which we're also working on, which has impacted the delivery of that particular program.
For Young Sewer, Borough Sewer and Harden Sewer, we have increased income from the sale of sewer diagrams for Harden and of 6,000, Borough 4.5, but no diagram sales at all, or was it on budget for Young? No. It seems a lot of money for sewer diagrams, relatively. How much do diagrams cost, and why has there been a sudden increase in Young and Harden relative to Borough?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Young has adequate budget within that, and the actuals were tracking okay. It was just the movements of those fees to the other areas. So when it was collected, it was receipted into that particular one area, and they've just moved them across. So that's why you see that movement in there to align to those funds.
And no capital expenditure for the year in Borough, so the program was reduced by 175,000. So there was no capital expenditure spent in Borough at all. Is that because of staff or nothing needed replacing, or?
So that's again a capacity issue and reflects the state of the Borough sewer reserves. We did have some work planned, but that's been reassessed, and upon investigation, that work was going to be much more technically difficult to achieve. So we've had to reevaluate that program going forward.
We have 5.4 million, 5.4 million in outstanding debtors, of which I think so. I'm just looking for a portion of it is government grants. Do we expect to get the government grant portion?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we have placed claims on those particular organisations. Can I guarantee you that you will get it before the 30th of June? No, I cannot.
At what point do we write it off? Or I think one of them is for a grant that we actually haven't been able to get one of the communities to engage with. Is that correct, or has that one been written off?
Are you talking to the one that turns up every month as the 40,000 on it? We're still trying to pin someone down. Everyone else is, they've looked at everyone else on that. However, we haven't written it off because we still think it's due. We will pursue it. It's $40,000.
Okay. I've only got a couple more. Actually, I've only got one more, and Simon, you may be able to answer it. I noted on page 273, and it's been a question I've asked repeatedly, that interest never appears from the opening to the closing balance for our external reserves or the developer contributions. And I'm not convinced that we allocate interest, because the interest goes into our cash that we hold at bank, and that's to be voted on later. When I look at the Gaylong contributions, I can never follow the interest accrual for the loan through.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we do apply interest to those funds that come in. We normally do them on a yearly basis on a distribution, and then we report back in the reserves position of that. I think it was actually previously reported to council and fully broken down. I think that has been done before.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that, councillor. Any other questions around the room?
I just,
Councillor,
through you,
Councillor Mackie.
Mr. Mayor, I don't know if this is really on point, but when I'm looking at rates and levies and annual charges and the new subdivision in Boorowa, when do we see the vacant land that we apply the rates to for access to water, and when can we see that actually becoming a reality? Like if you've got a vacant block and you charge access, but this is, it's a work in progress.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, as we get those subdivisions and the applications are made to connect water, we then bring those on and bring them through. You'll see those through a quarterly budget review will come through with increased charges or increased income on those rating areas. So as they're split through and applied, we apply it then and bring it through.
Thank you for that.
I do have one more question. It seems miraculous to me, 257, that if we look at the roads, and just as an example, Harden Local Road sealed resurfacing, the original budget dating back to day one is 397,469, and we're going to hit it on the nail. Is that just good management, or how does that happen?
Through you to Mr. Mayor. Look, the budget is what it is. Whether we land on it particularly, we're not going to make an adjustment. We're just saying that we have spent 346,000 against the 397. At this point, it'd be very nice to land on the money, but I don't expect to see it.
So work done, work outstanding. We're expecting.
I understand from the discussion with the director, we are still expecting to. We've completed most of the work in Harden and Boorowa, and the emphasis is on completing the work in Young. I'll pass to the director to add to anything there.
Just stole my thunder. Well, there's 85 and 87% of the work's done in Boorowa and Harden. There's less than just under 50% completed up until the end of March in the other area. The director assured me at the last time I asked about this, I think that those works and that money would be allocated and used. Is that correct, Director?
Yes, that is correct. Since that time, our focus has turned very much to the sealed network in the Young area. And yes, while we may not end up right to the dollar figure of the budgeted amount for those areas, we will come very close.
Thank you very much for that. Look, just comments I'd make, no questions, but I'd like to thank staff and commend staff and also Councillor Flannery for going through those questions and the manner in which they were asked and the manner in which they were answered. It's something that we've struggled with quarterly budget reviews, and I have personally for a number of years. But I feel the explanations and the reasoning that was put to why those changes occurred make handling the document a lot easier. Having said that, I spent nearly 3 hours Sunday afternoon and I couldn't get numbers to marriage up till I had to seek some further help. And that resulted in me trying to marry numbers up from the March quarterly budget to the forecast going forward, but I was using the wrong numbers. I had to be using the numbers from the December quarterly budget review. So I understand it's a document that takes some following, but it's definitely getting better, and the story around the document is getting better. So I would like to thank staff for that. On that note, if there's no other questions in regard to the matter, I'll put that matter. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Item 12.9, Hilltops Council Agency Information Guide. Receive and note the report. Move in a second to Councillor Blackwell. Second to Councillor Flannery. Thank you. Do I have any questions in regard to that matter? If not, I'll put that matter. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Stadmiller, was that against or for?
It was a bit slow on the uptake there. That was 4.
Councillor. Item 12.10, draft investment policy. The council approve the draft investment policy be placed on public exhibition for 28 days and, as normal, if there's no submissions, receive and adopt said policy. Remove and a seconder. Councillor Blackwell, Councillor Dodds a seconder. Thank you. Any questions or comments in regard to that? Happy for me to put it, councillor. All those in favour? Thank you. It's unanimous. We've got some draft policies now. The draft credit card policy. Council approved the draft credit card policy be placed on public exhibition for 28 days and be received, adopt. After move and a second move, Councillor Flannery, second Councillor Langford.
Question, and look, I'm going to use this to be a little bit left field so the mayor can rule me out of order.
And he will.
Just foreshadowing. But I was told at a meeting the other day, we only have one in the whole of council, one of your little credit card devices. And it goes from, so if the kite festival's on, it goes from.
Oh, you're talking about an EFT.
Surely we can get one at each office. We are not that poor.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
I'll allow it
we
to go.
have more than one credit card terminal. I think there's been one ordered for the kite festival.
It was raised about the pools, that Harden and Borough Pool don't have them either, and surely we can have one at each office.
Yeah. That's something we've just done an order, so we've certainly looked at that.
Well, the skin of your teeth, right? Okay. All right, if there's any other questions in regard to that item, if not, I'll put it. All those in favour? Unanimous. 12.12, draft Hilltops closed circuit television in public places policy. After a mover and a seconder, I'll move then, and Councillor Dodd will second.
Just a question after that.
Question, Councillor Stadmiller.
I did have a brief chat with the general manager. He was rather helpful today in shedding some light on this. There doesn't seem to be a financial part to this report, and that was due to the fact that it's a policy, but we must have spent considerable amounts of funds on these pieces of infrastructure all over the council area. So it'd be good to get a report back, and I'd like to move or add as an amendment that way that we find out how much we have spent so far in closed circuit television and who it's actually serving, whether it's serving us or the local police force or emergency services or what, because it'd be good to understand what it's trying to do for Hilltops Council.
Okay, just on the point of the amendment, could we just get that worded so I can have a look at it, please?
Councillor Stadmiller, can you? Oh, well, I'll just read it to you. Report on the spend for CCTV and its purpose be brought back to council. Is that what
That's
you're asking?
fine by me. I struggled to remember what I said the first time at this stage of the night. So
Okay, so
thank you.
I'll just ask before I do anything with that, unless the director can answer that now, and if you can, that's fine. If you can't, I'm happy to put that in with the motion. So
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not sure that I can specifically answer Councillor Stadmiller's.
okay, well before you do, then I'll accept that as dot point D to the recommendation. Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
What I can say is that rolling out of the CCTV cameras, especially for our waste facilities, has been part of the waste capital budget, so that's hasn't been an additional cost. And any consideration of new cameras would need to inform future budget discussions. So we're talking about the policy, not where we're placing the cameras. And I would say that if a report is required, we'd need to know the time frame that you're looking at for placement of these cameras that you'd like costings on.
Mr. Mayor, page 327 is just where I was starting, which mentions Bridbury, Bora, Bendick, Murrell and so on. There's a table there, so that'd be a good place to start.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, could I just ask, could we get some clarification on like which ones are working and which ones aren't? Because I believe
We're sort of deviating a bit from where we are. It's a different discussion. This is actually about the policy. I know there's other questions around the matter which will need to be brought and can be dealt with. Would I dare to suggest when this report that's in this motion comes back to council? But at the moment, I've accepted the D to be put in with the recommendation, and we're dealing with the actual just policy tonight. So if everyone's happy with that, and then the other information can be sought and come back with the report later. Everyone's happy with that? Then any other questions? Director, do you have anything else to say?
No, thank you.
Thank you. I'll put that. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Sorry. Those against? Councillor Foreman's against. Thank you. 12.13 we've dealt with. Correct? So we go to 12.14. Yeah, I know the number. Just got one page. There it is. 13.14. Thank you, Mr. General Manager. It's the Wombat Cemetery, moved by Councillor Flannery, seconded by Councillor Dodd. Thank you. Anyone got any questions in regard to the matter? If not, I'll put it. All those in favour? It's unanimous. 12.15, cash investment and unrestricted cash report. The recommendations there, councillors. Moved Councillor Flannery, the question. Councillor Mackie, seconded. Question, Councillor Flannery.
Just on page 361, why they can't be annual payments. There's a number of payments there pertaining to 2024 that I would have thought should have appeared on a previous report.
Yeah, I will say we've struggled to make sure that we've answered the question. So, by way of example, the National Australia Bank, it articulates what the interest and loan repayments was and the principal outstanding. As you see, the balance at the last payment in the 31st of the 7th, 2024, the loan was just over $2 million. you'll see that the payments were made, so that the balance, the last payment that was made on the 24th of the 4th, 2025, was 1.8 million odd, which is in bold. You add those bold figures all up, noting that the next loan for urban roads is nil, you will see that the total loans add to the 10.69 million. So it's basically the history of the loans and the payments of the loans as they get paid down, and we build upon this. There was a question from councillors not understanding why 1 month you'd have one loan. So we've now put all the loans in there for the history, so it's complete. Thank you, councillor.
I have a little problem with that graph. Just a minor thing down the bottom, but be corrected next time. It's got there, there's a loan for the young library. It's actually the Hilltops High School community library, not the young library. I don't want to be petty, but it's there, so we need to make sure that's right. Just on that, and then them loans have been paid down. I'll leave it for another day, doesn't matter, but yep. Okay, any other questions in regard?
Well, hang on, have we paid off the Borough streetscape loan? Last time I knew that was 1.5 million outstanding.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that loan has been paid.
It's paid out now. Thank you.
Thank you. And look, there's been since the council's been developed, Hilltops Council, there's been a lot of money paid off coming into talking about loans into the merged council. There was a $9.5 million loan out for the building of the new sewer works in Young, which have been paid for by the sewer fund. There was also another $3.3 million borrowed to do a conveyance main. Then there was $3.2 million borrowed to do another conveyance main, and $3 million for the water. About $18 million worth of loans that have been repaid by the Young and water and sewer funds on their loan sum. And that number is coming down. Do I have any other questions in regard to that item? Then I'll put it. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. 12.16. Outstanding rates and charges and sundry debtors report. Receive and note the report.
Move with a question.
Move Councillor Blackwell. Seconded Councillor Langford. Thank you. Question, Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you. I feel like I ask this every month, but why stop? On the water debts over 4 months, we did really well in the last month to get that down, and it's rebounded back up again. Mm-hmm. I know you're probably sick of me asking every month. I do enjoy these interactions, though. It's fun. And I'm not doing this to kind of pick on the accounting team, but just is what we're doing not working, or is it what's how can we explain? Again, I know it's month to month and things change month to month, but just I'm trying to sort of get a sense of the big picture, which is why I'm asking every month so we can kind of get a sense across the year.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Unfortunately, I can't determine when people want to pay their accounts, but we do try and recover as best we can. We do follow council's debt recovery policy. We're doing everything we can to try and get this money in. It could be that we've got rates due at the end of this month and people don't pay their water, so they pay their rates. I really can't determine who pays what when, or what economic or outside factors contribute to that. All I can say is that we are working very hard to recoup what we can when we can.
And the second question, again, it was touched upon earlier, but I didn't quite get the full answer, was just an update perhaps from the GM on that outstanding PM&C grant, the $40,000.
The $40,000. So that's a Department of Environment invoice that we have sent to them. As the General Manager explained, it's a bit of a buck passing issue. We are still following that through. We still believe it's due and payable, so we will be chasing that. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
I can probably record that answer, Councillor, if you want to ask that question every month. Because other than send out a notice to every person who didn't pay, it has to say, why didn't you pay? That's a very tough question to have to answer.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Happy. Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we
Councillor
have
Gallo.
lots of people coming into the post office that are struggling now with the move for council. I know it's been a while since the storms happened, but a lot of the elderly just can't grip that. They're still coming in the post office wanting to pay their rates or their water, and they just can't,
comprehend where council's gone, and I think a lot of the elderly are just really, really struggling with that move and having to get where to go and that sort of thing.
Thank you for that, councillor.
Just
And
a
yeah,
question.
yep, councillor
Mr.
Douglas.
Mayor. Through you, Mr. Mayor. I know we were looking at placing water restrictors on. Has this happened as yet?
No, not as yet. We had a meeting last week with staff to determine putting on the flow restrictors. Of course, we rely on the water and sewer operations team to be able to implement this. We did meet with them Wednesday, I believe it was last week, to determine a strategy of putting them on. We are down to 16 that are over the $20,000 mark. So I think we've had a couple that have actually come off the list, which is a positive thing. We are working towards getting it done. The letters are ready to go. We're just waiting on availability to be able to get them in. Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions in regard to that matter? No. Okay, I'll put that item. All those in favour? It's unanimous, thank you. 12.17. The establishment of Companion Animals Advisory Committee, and the recommendation is we receive and note the report and adopt the terms of reference for the Companion Animals Advisory Committee. Moved, Councillor Gallo. Seconded, Councillor Blackwell. Councillor Gallo, would you like to talk? To your...
I would just, through you, Mr. Mayor, I would like to thank Jamie and his team for putting this together. It's great, and it's great to see council moving forward.
Thank you, councillor. On that note, unless there's any other commentary, I'll put.
Sorry,
that
just
matter.
a question. Do we have to nominate the two? Have we already nominated the two councillors to the committee?
On that note, I'll put that matter. All those in favour? Against? Councillor Stadmiller noted as against. Thank you.
Can I just ask a
Not
question?
now.
No, not to that. It was just like a random question. It's sort of relating to that, but it's very quick.
Councillor Mackie.
When we say companion,
We can't hear Councillor Mackie.
I don't know if anyone heard the Tasmanian problem that they had this week when they took a support animal into a supermarket, and it was an alpaca. And so I just want to know, do you have to be specific in your animal when you say companion animal?
I'm pleased I let you ask that question. Next item is 12.18.
We'll take that on.
I was going to say, I don't think anyone's got an answer for you. Excuse me. The draft Hilltops contaminated land policy. I'm sorry.
Purpose was Tasmanian.
Yeah. Okay, councillors, 12.18, and there's a report there and a recommendation which says endorse the draft Hilltops Council contaminated land policy for public exhibition. If no submissions, we do that. Upon adoption,
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
upon adoption, we do what it says there. So I've had a mover by Councillor Stadmiller and seconded by Councillor Foreman. There's no questions in regard to that. And Councillor Blackwell.
I do have some questions for the director, if that's okay.
There you go, councillor.
Thank you. I have two. We'll go kind of one at a time, just so it's easier for both of us. On page 33 of the attachment, we talk about the discovery of Indigenous objects with regards to remedial work. Obviously, you can't determine always what you're going to find, where you're going to find it. But should we not perhaps be trying to involve the local land councils earlier in the process, potentially requiring people to show that they've engaged with the land council before they start work to kind of speed things up a bit, mitigate any impact if they do find anything, or is that not part of this?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, there's two elements to this. First off is that this draft policy very strictly follows the guidelines from the practice note that the department has put out. So we've followed best practice from that, and that's what they consider with relationship to contaminated sites. When you're dealing, second part of this answer is that when you're dealing with contaminated sites, it's not an isolation, often from a development application, and that's where you would identify early the possibility of identifying sites of Indigenous value and heritage.
That actually answers both my questions, so thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll
Mr.
cover.
Mayor?
Councillor Stadmiller.
Question for the General Manager. In light of Councillor Blackwell's question, should we not have local historical societies working with Council to engage on colonial matters of historical significance due to the gold rush riots and so forth that happened in the 1850s in the Young District?
I'm going to take a stab here and say I think the Director probably addressed that matter in his answer to the first question. But yeah, thank you, Councillor Stadmiller, for that. Any other questions in regard to that policy? Then I'll put that matter. All those in favour? It's unanimous. 1219 is the Conflict of Interest Management Policy for Council-related development. The recommendation: endorse the Conflict of Interest Management Policy for Council-related development, attachment 1 for public exhibition for 42 days, with clause 160 of the Local Government Act 1993, and if no submissions are received, to adopt that said policy. Move Councillor Foreman, thank you. Councillor Blackwell seconded. Commentary or questions in regard to that? No, Councillor? Okay. I'll put that matter. All those in favour? Unanimous. 1220, development application stats for April. Receive and note the report. Moved by Councillor Blackwell, seconded by Councillor Flannery. Question, Councillor Flannery.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. 2 applications for the month were approved by Council with 46. There's 58 undetermined, but 12 are awaiting information from the applicant. So 46 are still sitting on Council's desk. So we've got 2 at this rate. We'll approve the existing applications in 2 years. Is that how you say it?
Through you, Mr Mayor, the maths is a little bit more sophisticated than that, because the vast majority of our applications we determine within about 40 to 60 days because they're straightforward. Then you get your ones that are complex and take additional time, such as subdivision in particular. So it doesn't work like that. I can say that we've been tracking this for many, many years now, and having 58 undetermined applications is at our historical low. It has been up to about 92, I think is the highest, and usually tracks around the 75 to 80 mark. So we are travelling really well in the space overall.
And through you, Mr Mayor, would you mind giving us an update on how we are going with the pre-lodgement reviews? How's the community finding that?
So through you, Mr Mayor, as you'll be aware, we've adopted a development assessment policy, and as part of that, we're doing a lot more working with customers and applicants at the front end to essentially vet their application before we accept them. And for the last 3 months, where the paperwork hasn't been in place, we have actually returned the application and saying either you need to get your paperwork in, and if they don't, they will refuse it. We always make sure to contact the applicant directly and explain the reasons and give them the opportunity to address the matter. When we first started doing that 3 months ago, we had about 70% returned. The following month, that was only down to 40%. And this last month, only 20% of them returned, which means that everyone's coming together to make sure the work has been done up front so that we can then assess and determine the applications a lot faster than we've done historically.
Thank you for that.
Congratulations.
And from my point of view, it's very pleasing because I've got a number of pet hates, but that department was one of them. They've considerably improved the time frame and how they're dealt, and it has to be going pretty good because I can tell by the number of phone calls I don't get as opposed to the ones I used to get. So well done to the team in the planning area, and that doesn't mean we rest on our laurels. It means we just get better. So, thank you very much.
Right, thank you to the Director for the answer, but if we can keep it at those numbers, it would be good.
Yep. Any other questions in regard to that report? I'll put that report. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Thank you, Director. You might probably stay there. The next item is 1221, which is a replacement dwelling at 21 Dairyman's Lane, Young, and the recommendation is to approve the variation.
So moved.
And agree with the applicants to go through. Thank you, Councillor Stadmiller. I'd have a second to Councillor Davis. Thank you. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor Stadmiller, or you happy?
Sensible use of land. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Has anyone else got any questions or queries? Councillor Flannery, is that?
No, all good.
All good. Thank you. On that note, then I'll put that. All those in favour? Unanimous again. 1222 is the Campbell Street upgrade, and it's to receive and note the report. After a mover and a seconder. Move Councillor Gallo, thank you. Seconded Councillor Langford. Any questions in regard to that report?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor.
Just this is with this. I know we're receiving and noting, but just a question on. So when they speak about the tree removal, and replacement program, do we have a replacement program for the trees that are removed? Like not only in the CBD but throughout Young, like is that a thing that we do look at, is beautification and tree planting and replacements?
And through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, there is an ongoing tree replacement program for Young, as there is for the other towns.
And it's 1 tree out, 3 trees in. That's exactly how it is.
Okay, perfect. And then the second question is, when you talk about this these works, and you mentioned the CBD, does that mean going into the CBD development, as in the main street area, central business district area?
Yes, so the work on Campbell Street will be linked to the work that we're investigating in the CBD. You'll be aware council has recently allocated some money to progressing designs for a CBD upgrade. The Campbell Street upgrade obviously being done at a similar time, it should ease people into the design of the CBD as they enter town through Campbell Street.
And one more question, sorry. What is the timeline that you envisage? I know that's hard to answer, but
So the Transport for New South Wales works on the pavement are scheduled for 2026-27. So council's work should ideally be finished before that work commences to avoid damaging the road pavement.
I've got no question, probably a statement. The thing that worries me about this, and when I heard that they did the patch job, and the reason they did that was because they're coming back to do it, a major upgrade, which is most certainly needed, is the tag that comes with it. The work council's going to do, which will be great, except I don't know where the money's going to come from. So that's something that will be needed to be looked at, because if you read that in the expectation of what council has to do to blend in with this, there will be considerable costs involved. So that's the question I have over them. Well, it's great they come in and they do the road, but it's going to cost us a small fortune to change the curb and guttering and the arrangements, from what I've read around it. So we need to start putting some thought into that process as well. But thank you.
Yes, you're absolutely right. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no other questions in regard to that matter, then I'll put that. All those in favour? It's unanimous. Item 1223, local small commitments allocation grant program, and it's about the installation of electric vehicle chargers. Receive a note report, Councillor Flannery with a question, seconded by Councillor Dodd. Thank you. Councillor Flannery.
I'm curious about the member of the community that applied for the grant. Do we know who that is? Or
No, we do not.
so a member of the community has applied for a grant on behalf of council.
Yeah, so so they have nominated council. It wasn't it wasn't necessarily on behalf of council. Council didn't ask for the money, however we were given it with no co-contribution required.
It wouldn't happen to be the same applicant that has got a DA in for a battery storage system that
we probably, Mr. Mayor, we don't know.
We probably, no, we don't.
We don't know, and if we did know, this is not the forum for that.
There's no conflict issues.
We don't know, but I would say is that would be an issue that we would have to talk about in confidential. But as we first stated, we don't know.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, then the decision we need to make is Whitten Lane versus, or do we need to make a decision on Whitten Lane versus Bathurst Street tonight? Whitten, right?
So both those locations are proposed and can be funded with the funding we have. Yes.
Can I make a comment on the Whitten Lane one? It
Councillor
seemed
Gallo.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry. That end of that Witten Lane is actually used a lot because it's caravan parking, you know, for them to be able to turn around as well as the garbage trucks. Is that going to interfere with people with, you know, cars and trailers being able to turn around at the end of Witten Lane?
The location, the specific location that's proposed is already angled parking, I believe. So, however, we will take impacts on turning vehicles into consideration. The locations are largely driven, as the report says, by access to three-phase power, as well as proximity to locations of interest to CBDs.
I believe the end of that street is no stopping for the ability for people to be able to turn around. So then that would, be a conflict.
Okay, well, we can make sure that we avoid that no stopping zone.
Thank you for the update. Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. Was Burrawa considered for this, or was it was Harden the first and default choice?
Burrawa was considered. However, we've had interest from industry to provide fast chargers in Burrawa, and you'll be aware there's also a bank of AC chargers at the at the Services Club.
Thank you for that. There's no other questions in regard to the matter. I'll put that item. All those in favour? Unanimous. 1224, outstanding applications for heavy vehicle access. There's a report there and the recommendation is receive and note the report. Councillor Blackwell and seconded Councillor Flannery. Councillor Flannery will have a question, I'd imagine.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did ask for this report and I did ask for the number of days, for the outstanding applications for the number of days. So I'll ask that the report come back again with the length of time that it's on the table, that the various applications have been outstanding, please. On the information that we have, the permit applications, is it just for A doubles, B doubles, A triples and so on, or does it include applications for headers and machinery and whatnot, just so that I'm clear on the answer?
Yes, so it, I believe it does include both of those types of vehicles. So both road train type vehicles, B doubles, and oversized vehicles.
Okay, well, when the report comes back, which should be pretty simple for next meeting, can we just get trucks, because that's what I'm wanting information on for council. And look, the only other one, page 504 on the dot point paragraph mid-page. I think it would read better if it said, in most cases, this is because the applicant has requested a higher mass loading than the road can accommodate, rather than that the road cannot accommodate.
Okay, thank you.
Forward to a revised report, please.
Thank you, Councillor Flannery, and well picked up. That and then. Any other commentary in regard to that item? Councillor Foreman.
Just a question. In the financial implications, is there a reason why we don't charge for the permits and the process is taken out of the general fund?
So we have, I believe, the ability under legislation to charge for the permit processing. However, the system used for the permit doesn't allow us to have a charge point in that. So there would be a manual process we would have to implement to charge. I believe only City of Sydney and possibly one other council in New South Wales charges a fee.
Thank you. I'd imagine the cost of implementing the fee would exceed what's coming back in.
Potentially, yes.
Thank you. Good question. Okay, that's that item. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Unanimous. Councillors. 1225. Proposed road schedule for 25-26. The recommendation, receive and note the report, adopt the proposed projects and apply for grant funding for road repairs. Moved by Councillor Flannery with a question, seconded by Councillor Douglas. Thank you. Question, Councillor Flannery.
Look, thanks very much to the director and staff that prepared this report, which is quite comprehensive and gives everyone the opportunity to review work that's planned for this year. there's a couple of questions. Scenic Road has been listed for work for both gravel reshooting and I think patching. Are you able to advise which end of Scenic Road that is? Because I think it's about 40 kilometres long or something, is one question. It lists Ubindle Road on page 513 for $402,210 worth, various heavy patching and reseals. And then on page 601 of the report, or page 601, which is a separate report, however, it's in the Gaylong BPA money, and Ubindle Road, I think, falls into that, but it's listing Kalangan Road, and Ubindle Road only gets... So it's listing Kalangan Road for 480, revised from 320 from the previous year, and Ubindle Road on it only is allocated for 25-26, $140,000.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, we'll have to take the question about the specific parts of Scenic Road to be dealt with on notice. The question about the road program for the Gaylong Mine VPA funding, I believe that difference is that we are reporting in the following report, the Capital Works report on the current financial year, and this report is dealing with the 25-26 financial year.
My reading of it was they were the same, 25-26, but okay, I'll reread it. Scenic Road, are you able to advise where the heavy patching or repair, because certainly the abattoir end of Scenic Road, and I think we spent $326,000 there in, it was the year before COVID, so it was 1920, and my inspection of it the other day was it needs significant work to the shoulders.
No, so I will have to take that question about where on Scenic Road we are proposing to do work on notice.
Okay, when I look at page 530 of the report, and I'll point this out to those that are interested, for those that are not, too bad. So Chillingworks Road, for example, we have section 2, segment 2, we're patching 10 metres, 4 metres wide. Then we're moving the machinery 50 metres along, because we're doing 1.27 metres to 1.28 metres. We're moving along 50 metres and we're patching another 10 metres. Then we're jumping 40 metres and patching 10 metres, and then we're jumping 70 metres and doing another 40 metres at half road width. And I've argued the toss about this for years, and it's throughout this report. So we're patching a total of 60 metres and jumping a total of 240 metres. If we were to do the whole lot, we'd be doing, we would do 240 metres, and we're doing 60 metres under this report. If you use the metrics on the table, we'd do 240 metres, and if we did it 8 metres wide, it would be $7,220 as opposed to $3,600. To recoup that, based on the costing here, that would be an extra 12 hours work. I would argue that having to turn the grader, water truck and roller around to do 10 metres, stop or miss 40 metres, would easily exceed the extra $3,000 we're saving. And it is throughout this report. If we are doing 10, skipping 40, and the same is on Moppity Road, it's all through here. It's just, you just can't turn a grader around. Go and have a look at the graders sitting around our shire, and you tell me if you can turn that around. And it's cheaper. I'll promise you it's cheaper. And I ask staff to seriously consider to rip the whole lot up, because it's not the money in doing the work, it's the money in not doing the work. If the grader leaves the depot and spends 8 hours out on the road, it is billed out for 8 hours at $180 an hour or whatever it is. It's not billed out for the 10 minutes that it spends grading up that bit of road, so you might as well keep it moving. The only cost we have got is that actual material. And I plead with you to revise the work we're doing and just rip the whole lot up. Do it for a segment and come back as a trial, but it will be cheaper.
Thank you, councillor. I don't think council was after a response here. He's making a comment and some advice and his thoughts on that matter, which is appreciated by all, and no doubt staff will take some of that those thoughts on board. And it's been an issue for a long, long time about doing small segments and then moving equipment, and whether it's financially a smart move or not. Anyone got any other question? Councillor Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. I've had a lot of members of the community complain about Victoria Street in Young. Has a lot of kind of reactive grading rather than proactive, and I don't see it on anyone on the list there. Is that something we can add in to the program for next year?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, maintenance grading doesn't appear on the schedule. It's only proposed capital works. However, the projects proposed are suggestions from staff based on a number of sources, and ultimately the decision for funding lies with council.
Maintenance grading comes under a completely different report.
Yes,
Thank you.
That's right.
Councillor Foreman.
Just Wickham Lane Stage 2, the 800,000 sealing unsealed section. Is that, could you just do a little please explain on that one?
Yes, so that is proposed to seal about 1.2 kilometres of the unsealed section, planning to get to Crow Road intersection.
So we're gradually working our way up Wickham Lane?
Yes, there are further stages proposed in future years.
There is a bit of progress happening there.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And it remains the number one commitment to have it done, that I've stated before. Yep. Okay, any other questions in regard to that report? I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Council is unanimous. 1226 is the Capital Works Report. Move Councillor Davis. Seconded Councillor Blackwell. Councillor
Question.
Question in regard to it, Councillor Davis, or no, you're right. Was that Councillor Stanmiller? Question.
Yes, thank you. Mr. Mayor, just a question regarding, and the General Manager tried to give me some help earlier this week. Again, 2 water tanks close to Tyndall and Oval next to what looks to be a pumping shed. They are just in a terrible position for what is a picturesque oval there with a white picket fence. It does brown off a little bit during winter, but when water's on it, it is absolutely beautiful, and in memory of a former staff member. I just think we need to have a look at what we're going to do in the future with placement of tanks and so forth, and whether they could be shifted further down the back or put underground or something, because driving past you can't see half that oval anymore, and it's really disappointing. And I'd really like the General Manager or yourself next time you're in Harden have a look. I think that we can do better on that one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions in regard to that report? If not, I'll move the recommendation. Let's receive and note the report. All those in favour? Against? No, it's unanimous. Thank you. Takes me to 1227, which is the operational works report, and the recommendation is the same. Receive and note the information provided and works completed and works planned. Do I have any?
So no question.
Moved by Councillor Flannery. Sorry, just have to turn the page here. I'm pretty sure it was seconded by Councillor Davis. Thank you. Councillor Flannery, good question, you said.
Yeah, look, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Jalambie Road is not listed on the maintenance grade, which runs off Cunningar Road and back round to Barwang, I think. It's all but getting to the impassable stage with a 2-wheel drive car. I drove a truck along it the other day, and it was pretty treacherous. It's on the list deferred to FY 25-26, but if that's, given that's 4 to 6 weeks away, if it could be on the front end, please.
Thank you, Councillor. Yes, I believe that will be one of the earlier roads to be done next financial year.
I would have thought it also would qualify for some of our disaster funding. Do you know if it was listed on the storm damage from the Harden storm?
I'm not sure exactly. However, the storm damage work doesn't tend to appear in the operational works report because it is capital funding.
That's why I'm asking, because we don't want to put it down as operational if it was storm damage.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And Councillor Blackwell.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just while I have the director here, is there any update on those Marsden Street gutter works? I noticed some of it's been started, but it's kind of stalled in the last fortnight.
Yes, so I believe if it has stalled, that's probably to do with the weather. I know we have completed one section towards the on Jugong Street intersection or near there, and the other section within the CBD has started, however, hasn't been completed. So we're working on it.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I'd also like to, I've had, been in contact with the director a few times about gravel roads where water hasn't been running off them. And I would like to compliment the director on his work at trying to ensure gravel roads are being graded properly and water's getting off them. A few other quick questions. The bird droppings in the Harden CBD are nearly getting out of control. And then there's a number of items listed under Harden on page 285 that I'm not aware that are actually going on. It says irrigation checks and maintenance, and there's pre this rain, there's the box privets, box hedges are nearly dead in some parts. I haven't seen evidence of tree removal. I've spoken to the general manager about as to why Harden has bark chips that are disgustingly red in colour, and the garden maintenance in Neil Street.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, the wood chip that has been used in the garden, I've inquired on that myself. It is what has been available through the local landscaping supplies businesses to council. However, we are looking at other options, including using the material that we have removed from our own land. There's a delay and a management process we need to implement there, in that we can't apply freshly chipped eucalypt, for example, because it will remove nitrogen from the soil and affect plant growth. So there's a management process that we need to work on there to ensure we can do it. And regarding the pigeons and also the garden beds in the Harden CBD, yes, you're right, that's a significant issue. We are working on it, including re-implementing some of the management measures that were proposed originally when that streetscape was installed. And we have trimmed the palm trees, as you'd be aware, and we have further work proposed on those palm trees to discourage nesting by the pigeons, including potentially manual nest removal and fruit removal. And I believe the pigeons are affecting the gardens underneath the palm trees. So one issue will improve the other issue. However, yes, we do look into any irrigation issues as we work on those areas.
Yeah, because there's significant areas of those hedges that do look as though they were dying, and then replacing them will be difficult because getting young plants to grow with other bigger plants around them.
Thank you, Councillor. Any questions in regard to that report? I do, in the fact that I know I can go to another report and find out the gravel reshooting, but it's just seems to have got its way in now in the operational works report that everything's under maintenance grading. I just would mention that there's a significant difference between gravel reshooting and maintenance grading, but anyway, It's just a matter of chasing the two reports to find out if the numbers are marrying up for me, Director. Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Any other questions in regard to that report? Then I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Unanimous. 2027 takes me to 2028, which is media releases and Office of Local Government Circulars. Looking for a mover. Councillor Douglas like to move that. Councillor Foreman was a seconder. Question about it. All those in favour of the recommendation? Unanimous. 1229 is the Gaylong Limestone Mine BPA Steering Committee, and the recommendation councillors receive a note. The Gaylong Limestone Mine BPA. Moved Councillor Flannery. Seconded Councillor Foreman. Thank you. Comments,
Comment and a question. Look, firstly, I'd like to commend Judy Suter, who's the president or vice chair of the Gaylong VPA, not VPA, the Progress Association. She's really pushing hard for, the community to maintain assets, which are our councils, and doing a good job and holding everyone to account. They literally have a task for cleaning the hall, looking after the parks and gardens, a register. My question is around the money, or the VPA money, that isn't getting spent in Gaylong for various issues. Most of them are land claim issues, and they've moved from the Limestone Park to Friends Park, and as I have detailed before, there's been a claim there. We're told that it's a green road. What is happening about council pushing with the Crown land to have it converted, and where is that up to, please?
Which director would like to respond? No one's rushing the podium.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the council is continuing to engage with Crown Lands. However, I can't advise on any progress on those particular projects at this stage. You'll note there the Progress Association and the VPA Steering Committee have recommended other projects that can be achieved in a shorter time, including some work on the Gaylong Hall and the associated amenities block, and some improvements to the playground in that area as well.
Yep, I'm aware of that, thank you, because I attend most of their meetings and they keep saying to me, when's council going to do something about it? And I have said to them, well, you better spend some of your money elsewhere, because it'll be a bit of a wait. But I keep getting my head, getting an uppercut every time I go to the meeting, and it hurts.
You're just the bloke for the job.
But it was nearly a yes minister answer that we're engaging with the Crown land, because I'm sure council does that every week.
It's all we can do,
When are you engaging with them about this issue?
Okay, thank you for that. And they've been touched on before. Any other questions in regard to that item? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Unanimous. Takes me to 12:30. Yep. Committee reports requiring no action, and the recommendation is receive and note the minutes of the following committee reports as presented. The Wombat Progress Association. Moved Councillor Blackwell. Seconded Councillor Dodd. Thank you. Any questions? Not. All those in favour of the recommendation? Unanimous. 12:31 is the action summary report. Note the status of the action. Is the recommendation. Moved Councillor Langford. Seconded Councillor Mackie. Any questions in regard to that report? Councillor Flannery.
Look, it was raised by Councillor Ingram, Mayor Ingram, a few minutes ago that Campbell Street, it would be great if we can do it up, but we've got no money in the budget anywhere. And I can see on here sale yards, and that may well be a source of funds, and it's not going to be an easy job, but we did move a motion that we get an expression of interest to purchase the yards. Where is that up to, please? It says a report will be presented to council. Can we be advised of when a report will happen and what's happening about an expression of interest?
Thank you, councillor.
Through you, Mr Mayor, Councillor Flannery, the expression of interest documents have been prepared and it will be released as soon as possible, so probably next week.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, Director. Any other questions in regard to that report? If not, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Takes me over to 13.1. There's a question with notice from Councillor Langford. So before I do anything about moving and seconding, I will hand over to Councillor Langford.
Oh, thank you, Mr Mayor.
I'll correct myself, Councillor Langford. Before we do that, I should get a mover and a seconder. Would you like to move that? Councillor Langford, seconded Councillor Douglas. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, Councillor Langford.
Thank you. And thanks to the GM too for his response on that. I'm sure I'm not the only councillor that's been approached about the state of the town hall building. Even though there was a quick fix done under the awning during the election week, questions over the total makeover will continue. And that was the question that I was asking, was when would the facade be listed to be included and to be cleaned? Whilst the response to the question was extensive, it wasn't directly relevant to the clean-up of the facade. I was hoping for more of a commitment from council to provide councillors with a plan to at least obtain quotes and a suggested time frame. The report, as I said, was fairly extensive and it highlighted about $2.5 million worth of repairs to the town hall. So I might consider that staff might want to check the exits to make sure they can do a drill to get out of the town hall if the roof falls in. Having said that, it doesn't clearly say anything about cleaning up the facade. So I'll just keep asking the question.
Thank you, councillor. Would you like to have a response?
Oh, through you, Mr Mayor. This was raised when I first got here. It was more about the flagpole. It's been a long process. Certainly when it was first raised, COVID impacted and I couldn't get anyone to quote. The main cost in relation to just replacing and fixing the flagpole, it was some $20,000 to close the street and to have a cherry picker to the top. So I started to investigate what it would cost to repair and paint and do the full facade. The initial quote that I got for the scaffolding to do the complete, not only our soldier, but further up the tower right up to the clock, was $280,000 for the scaffolding. That reduced to $180,000 for the scaffolding in the front. On that basis, for that amount of money to just do the facade, I asked for a complete report in relation to the whole of the process. So I can refine that in relation to just the facade, and we can bring that back to you next month, Councillor. I'm sorry that I overexpanded, but that was the work that we were doing. We had actually engaged a builder to do an assessment on the whole building rather than spend money to just do a portion of it, where it was quite evident, given the heavy rains, there are leaks right across the building. Thank you.
That response, Councillor Flannery.
Mr Mayor, look, I thank you to Councillor Langford for asking the question, but I'd go so far to say she didn't even go close to answering the question. This question says, when can councillors be informed of the actual costs and the time frame of all maintenance work to be undertaken on Young Town Hall's facade to meet community expectations? And the response is about capital expenditure, which is not maintenance work, as we Clearly no, so I would look forward to a report coming back that answers the question, please.
Yep, I think the general manager's committed to that from what I'm hearing, so we look forward to that report coming back to being a bit more detailed on the relevant question that we're looking for an answer to, so thank you for that. Just on the point on the roof falling in, but I can assure you, and I've seen some commentary about buildings and still damaged in other communities. There's any number of rooms you can walk into this building, and I'll show you the roof and the floor, and start with the mayor's office if you like, and where the rain the other day, and where it comes through and straight through the ceilings and into the infrastructure inside. So at some stage there will need to be something done, because very poor design, whoever was around at the time that said they did it that way with the box guttering and the way it works. But anyway, on that note, I'll move the recommendation. All those in favour? Oh, sorry, Councillor Dodd, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just have a question. So what are we going to do about the fact that we've got all these roof leaks and that the building needs repair? What happens to that? Do we put that in the budget in a future year, or?
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, there's two parts to that. First, as I tried to articulate, the cost to do just part of it, to do the scaffolding, to meet all the safety requirements to go because of the height. That's considerable because of the scaffolding required to do that and to do the facade. This report was to basically say, hey, this is what we have. We need to bring a report back to you on how it might be phased, what we might need to do. It's clear through the report that we received and as articulated in the report, as the Mayor articulated, it is the box gutter the main issue, which is half the cost. A lot of it's to do with the panelling, etc., and a lot of that's aesthetics, but a lot of it still relates to water damage. But it is the box gutter that is the main issue with the roof, and it completely has to be redesigned and refitted. The estimates that are there, that was on the basis of an assessment. Obviously, the amount that actually is required, that would be part of a full tender process with separate components. And through that process, we can then talk about the facade. Councillor Stadmiller, you have your hand up.
Thank you.
Just a quick one, Mr. General Manager. What takes precedence, current work or perceived work in the near future, or natural disaster work which is yet to be started or completed?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, obviously disaster work, safety is the priority. So disaster work, obviously that's on foot in the areas that have been so affected, and we've talked about that, and that certainly includes Harden. In many instances, in relation to the disaster work, we are beholden to our insurance assessors about how quickly we can do that. We're having the roof reassessed, for example, on the administration building in Harden as we speak. We still haven't got a complete feedback from our insurers, and we are chasing those. So safety first is the priority, which would guide us across those three things that you mentioned.
Thank you.
On that note, the recommendation was receive and note the response. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. Takes me to items 14, 14.1. And there's a motion by Councillor Douglas. The motion is there. Would you like to speak to your motion, Councillor Douglas? Before you do, Councillor Douglas, you'll move that notice of motion. We get a seconder. Councillor Davis, thank you. Sorry. Over to you, Councillor Douglas.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. I put the motion forward to basically have a detailed assessment of all bridges within the CBD of Young, Harden and Burrawa to determine a cleaning and painting schedule. I would also like cost around the project and whether funding opportunities is available through grants or different
Thank you, Councillor Douglas. Would anyone else like to speak in regard to the motion? Or dare I say against the notice of motion? It's a good sign, no. If no one else wants to speak on the notice of motion, I'll put that notice of motion. All those in favour? Unanimous. Thank you, councillors. How easy was that? Oh, well, too early. Councillor Douglas, item 14.2 is a second notice of motion from Councillor Douglas, who will no doubt move her second motion and be seconded again by Councillor Davis. Over to you, Councillor Douglas.
I put this motion forward to improve the town entrance signage into our Young, Harden and Brewer and our villages. Pretty much stands for itself. Once again, I'd like a report on what funding is available, a report on what signage is currently out there and what needs to be improved. I noticed recently that other towns have also applied for the grant that I have listed, which they have updated their signage with. Part of the grant that I have listed does involve community consultation. How that looks, I would need to investigate further. But that's what my motion is for, is to look at improving the signage and the appeal coming into our towns.
Thank you, and we'll articulate it, Councillor Douglas. Anyone like to speak against the notice of motion? Councillor Dodd speaking against.
Well, I have a concern about the community-wide design competition, and I wonder if we can instead investigate the best way to actually decide how we get the town entrances signage designed, rather than that it says launch a community-wide design competition. I love the idea, and it would be great to have uniform signs. Not sure how we're going to fund it, but if there is money there, then that would be great. We have got some old signs that are there, but it's not the same across all the areas and across all the villages, and I think that's important. But how you get that consistency and yet have differences that distinguish one town or village from another at the same time. So how you have them the same but different. So I wonder if instead of having launch a community-wide design competition, we have something like investigate what that would look like.
So Councillor Dodd, are you suggesting an amendment?
I'm suggesting an amendment.
Thank you.
Unless, yeah. Over to you.
Well, no. We'll go back. Councillor Dodd, are you proposing an amendment?
I am proposing an amendment.
Could you please give that to the...
To change the launch a community-wide design competition to investigate how the design, sort of how that process would go. Oh, sorry, I'm not being very...
No, you're not.
I think it's just, wouldn't it just be, instead of launch, say investigate, because then investigate a community-wide design, and we do that and we bring a report back so that you can fulfil the part.
Can I just open this up?
No,
Can I move that
I'm sorry, you can't, because I want to have to deal with this amendment if it's going into the motion before we do anything else. So, the wording been changed anywhere, or what are we doing?
I reckon we open up in the committee.
Just we're going to change one word, weren't we? As the mover of the motion, Councillor Douglas, do you accept the amendment?
I do accept the amendment. Where I wanted community consultation or not a competition, but a community involvement, is that also forms part of the grants that are available, that you must have community consultation in the design. How that looks, I am not quite sure. I do know Grenfell or Blandshire Council have recently done that. That's how they've upgraded all their signs. If you go and have a look at their website, they show you how they've done it. But they've also applied for this particular grant, have been given that money, have updated up to 22 signs. but part of the condition is a community consultation.
Thank you for that information, Councillor Douglas. Okay, would anyone else like to
I'll
speak
foreshadow an
for?
alternate, foreshadow an alternate motion. I'll speak against it.
Councillor Flannery is foreshadowed another motion. Well, I'm after someone else to speak for this first. We just had Councillor Dodd against it.
I can speak for with an amendment if that's okay.
Yeah, go for your life.
Sorry to add to the chaos of this motion, Councillor Douglas.
Councillors, please.
I think this is a really good idea. I think there is a bit of
We'll decide that.
There is a
Put your amendment up.
okay. The amendment is just a change in two, where it says from the word reflect the cultural, historical, natural, and indigenous heritage of each town. That's the only change.
Can you put that amendment up, please?
So the very last sentence where it says reflect the cultural, sorry, I had the wording written here, cultural, historical, natural, and indigenous heritage of each town.
Investigate was accepted. Okay, so this is another amendment. I will now go to the mover to ask, does Councillor Douglas accept this amendment?
It's a yes and no. It's through a consultation with community whether our cultural heritage wants to...
You're debating, we're debating. We just need to know if you accept it or don't accept it.
I don't accept it.
Okay, so we will now deal with the amendment. The amendment hasn't been accepted. So what's before you, councillors, now is the amendment that Councillor Blackwell just put up. Councillor Blackwell, you get the opportunity to speak to your amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's just designed to be a simple amendment, just to add some further clarification as to what we'd like to see on the signs, including some of the natural heritage and indigenous heritage of the area. It's a very simply designed amendment. There's not much more to say than it's adding those words just so people get a sense, and so the report develops a sense of what the kind of things we'd like to see in the signs. That's really it.
Thank you.
Very straightforward.
Thank you. Would anyone like to speak against that amendment?
I would. I'd like to speak against it and the other one, but I'll deal with this one. Look, you've just got to look at the timeline of this. The grant opens in September. I'm not too sure when it closes. So a report will come back to council in June, go out to the public, 28 days. July, we've got to get agreement, all the signages, get a consultant in. It's just not going to work. Let's just go straight to the consultant. This is just not going to work. And then we go to the community on their preferences.
Thank you. So it's the speaker against the amendment. Does anyone else like to speak for the amendment?
Sorry, just a question. So when does it close? When does the process, how long do we have? Because we may not have any time.
I'm not sure when the grant closes, but it does open every year.
Okay, so that's the best we can do there. Anyone else want to speak for that amendment that's in front of us now? Anyone else want to speak against it? I'll speak against it on the fact that we open this thing up much further. We'll have the Melanese department come in with our council that I've been made aware of recently, and it just opens up a whole new area and makes this process more complicated. Having said that, you've got the right to reply on your amendment, councillor, and there's your opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, look, this is not designed to cause chaos or extra length. It's just adding 2 extra words to the kinds of guidelines we'd like to see for the competition to recognise the important natural features of the Hilltops area and the Indigenous features alongside the historical and cultural. That is simply put, it's a very simple amendment, not designed to cause chaos, add distraction. It merely adds 2 words to any competition guidelines so people who are commenting know the kinds of things we're looking for and the things that we value in the town signs. It's very straightforward.
That's the purpose of competition.
Thank you, councillor. I'll now put the amendment of Councillor Blackwell. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That amendment is lost. So we now go back and deal with the investigate amendment that was put there. And we spoke for it and against it. So I would ask now, I'm going to put the motion.
I want to speak against the this motion
Oh, sorry?
and
I thought
foreshadow an
I thought
alternate
You
motion.
said you'd foreshadow one, but you hadn't spoke against it because Councillor Blackwell's amendment. You're correct, Councillor. The floor is yours.
Look, I think the concept is a good one. The signs are hopeless, to say the least. There's no uniformity of them. I haven't seen weddings or Grenfells or parks. Parks I have. They have significant signs. They'd be half the width of this. They say Park Shire. Then you go to some of the smaller towns that might have wheat heads, which indicate what the towns are about, or a sheep. It's basically emerald green, black post, gold embossed writing. It's very simple. We just need to keep this simple. Get a consultant in, and then we can go and get some options, and then we go to the community and say which ones do they like. If you want to do it properly.
Thank you, Councillor, for that. Councillor Flannery has spoke against the amendment. It's up there now for the notice of motion. Would anyone like to speak for it as it stands? If no one, Councillor Gallo?
Yeah, I think it's a great idea and I'm fully supportive of Fiona's idea.
Thank you. And I agree. The concept is fine. It's just how we're going to go about it. So I'm going to put the motion as it is there, keeping in mind, councillors, I think you've probably got a rough idea of what the foreshadowed motion will be if this is lost.
Sorry,
If this,
Mr. Mayor, I just we haven't got it up behind you. I'm just not entirely sure what the exact text is at the moment. We've had a few
change of one
bounce
word.
around.
Investigate. There was one word change. Instead of launch, it was investigate. Am I correct?
That's correct, Mr. Mayor.
So, as I say, one more time, to keep in mind, if this motion is successful, that's how it is. If it's not successful, there's been a motion foreshadowed by Councillor Flannery. So, all those in favour of the motion as it stands now, please raise your hands. Investigate. Now, I'll go back through it again. What I'm putting to the floor now is the amended motion that changed the word from launch to investigate. That's all that changed. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is carried as it stands and worded. Thank you, councillors. I just hope we don't get lost in the mix. Item 15.1, I would ask of a mover and a second to move us to deal with confidential matters, please. Councillor Blackwell. Seconded, Councillor Davis. Thank you. Soon I'm in a really good mood. You've got 5 minutes if you need it. And the clock is...
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillors.
In confidential, Council resolved at 15.2, 25.156 appointment of committee members to the Hilltops Council Biosecurity Weeds Advisory Committee. Council resolved to receive and note the report, and B, approve the appointment of Chris Holland, Paul Parker and Jeremy Webber as community members of the Hilltops Council Biosecurity Weeds Advisory Committee. At report 15.3, 25/157, Bengo Wind Farm Enhancement Fund Committee membership. Council resolved to appoint 2 community representatives to the committee, who will be duly advised, and those that weren't will also be duly advised. 15.4-25/158 proposed lease or sale -31 Lynch Street, Young, former Southwest Regional Library. Council resolved to authorise all actions necessary for the sale of the building located at 31 Lynch Street, Young, and the General Manager be given delegated authority to negotiate the sale of the building located there for an amount not below the market value determined by a registered valuer, and following the sale, Council authorised the Mayor and General Manager to execute all necessary documentation on behalf of Council. At 15.5, the proposed sale of 23-39 Morrow Street, Young. Council resolved to authorise Council to proceed with the process for the sale of the properties at 23 to 29, 31 to 39 Miro Street. Young, General Manager be given delegated authority to negotiate the sale of those properties in accordance with the valuation provided. And C, authorise the Mayor and the General Manager to execute the required documentation to complete the sale and transfer of the property on behalf of Council. Report 15.625/160 cost of culvert cleaning crew. Council resolved to receive and note the report and B, purchase the items as listed in Table 1 from the Plant Replacement Fund. At report 15.7-25/161 award of contract RFT 34 Young Trunk Drainage Construction. Council resolved to receive and note the report. B, award the contract to the successful tenderer. C, delegate authority to the General Manager to execute all necessary documentation associated with the contract and expend funds as required within current budgets. D, delegate authority to the General Manager to secure a loan to cover the funding shortfall. And E, investigate other funding options and bring a report back to Council. Council also resolved to accept a late report, item 15.8-25/162, Corinna Court Complex 68-70 Court Street, Burrawa, lease renewal to Corinna Court Complex Incorporated. Council then resolved to enter a lease to Corinna Court Complex Incorporated for the Corinna Court Complex for a term of 10 years with a further option of 10 years at a peppercorn rent of $1 per annum. The terms of the lease are to be generally in accordance with the heads of agreement as annexed to the report. B, waive the fees and charges applicable to the preparation of the lease agreement. And C, authorises the Mayor and General Manager to execute the lease agreement on behalf of Council. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Mr. General Manager, and thank you, councillors. And it was a large business paper, and we've got through it pretty well. So, on that note, I'll call the meeting closed at 8 p.m. and travel home safely, everyone. Thank you.